A lot of Singaporeans who complain, oh, this foreigner is coming to take our job, etc., etc. Are we so comfortable in our environment that we're not willing to upgrade our skills to be a good challenge to anyone that can come to our countries to fight?
This is Benjamin, an entrepreneur from Singapore. We have an insightful conversation in which he shares valuable tips for expats on socializing with locals. We also discuss whether Singaporeans should be worried about foreigners taking their jobs, and he reveals how you can find mentors as a shortcut to success in life. I'm Max, you know me, let's dive in. People say Singapore is expensive, but you can actually live cheaply. So if you have accommodation, so if you, let's say you stay with your parents or grandparents, and then all the rest is quite affordable, I think. Like
Super.
Public transport, you can go to hawker for your lunch, and you actually, you can live on like 2K.
I probably think you could live for lesser than that. I
Yeah.
think a lot of my interns, I think for me myself, there was a period in my time about 10 years ago or so, I probably spent about $300 a month. So if you think about it, hawker food, right, you could really get it affordable, like maybe $2 to $3.
Yeah.
And then if you actually recalculate it backwards, you probably eat home at home and stuff like that. So if you're going to do a readjustment, it says you eat $3 a meal, right? You eat 2 meals a day, that's about $6. And then you multiply it by 30, you probably get about $180 a day.
Yeah.
And then with public transport, averagely for most Singaporeans, about anywhere between $80 to about $150. It really depends on how often you travel.
Yeah.
So actually, if you add that all up, then accommodations, most of us, we stay with our parents and stuff, to some extent it's free, right? I mean, as compared to our friend, we are fortunate in that sense.
Yeah.
But I think with about $300 to $500, most of us could potentially live, but with, of course, without hobbies and stuff. But there are some cheap hobbies, right? You can play basketball in a basketball court.
Yeah.
You can play soccer in this field.
That's true.
And it's free. It's still affordable in Singapore, as
Yeah.
long as you don't have cravings for cars or big houses and stuff.
What's the 3 best things for you about Singapore?
I think many people undermine the perspective of how safe Singapore is. I think I was watching some YouTubers and they were talking about how they can put a kid into Uber and the kid will reach safely into the destination. And it was funny, I'm like, gosh, how can you use that as a gauge? But many billionaires, they came to Singapore and they stay in Singapore because there's no other place that's safe like Singapore. 2, I think Singapore is a very powerful spot as an accessible point to the whole of Southeast Asia, and also to many different places. So we're 7 hours down to Australia. We are probably 7 hours to Japan, and we're about 11 hours to Europe. So of course, if you want to shift it a little bit, more ideal is Bangkok, where you actually get to go to more places. But Bangkok is also equally far away from Australia. With the governance, with everything that you have, I think Singapore has very strong governance, not only law, but also in the ways that we honor our contracts. So in many different countries, I'm not going to mention names for countries that the people do not honor the contracts and they will just cut away the contracts, and there's no way you can seek any legal recourse to it. But in Singapore, everything is legally done. So if you actually, kind of put out a lawsuit or you put out whatever, most of this can be sorted out by law because Singaporeans are very true to their words to most extent. If they sign a contract, they will honor the contracts as much as they can.
Yeah.
And even if they can't honor the contracts, they will come to you and find a way to negotiate because they know that their word is on the contract. But in many different countries, sometimes this contract, even after you sign it, it may not even work. So
Yeah.
I think that's also another interesting thing I think about Singapore. And one last thing, there's no other place where our dollar value is so powerful. If you earn $3,000 in Singapore, if you earn $5,000 in Singapore, our dollar is so strong to the point that you can actually go to our neighboring countries like in Malaysia or Indonesia, in many different places, and you can actually have a very powerful dollar to spend. So a lot of our Singaporeans, they love to go to JB to buy cheaper stuff and stuff, which is a great thing, right? I think in every country, there is always a country that's stronger in currency and a country that's actually weaker in currency, and that's where you actually get more value for the products that you purchase. And that to us, it's an amazing thing. So I think Singapore is perfect in a way where we're safe, we get to earn a decent amount of profits and stuff. But of course, our country is small, right? We can't get a lot of profits for like a huge company, maybe in Russia, maybe in China. You get such a huge population that just $1 from each person, you probably become a millionaire easily, right? It's a different perspective.
Guys, I want to create more content about life and business in Southeast Asia. I want to find more interesting people for you to interview them. So if you want to support my work, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. What's the 3 things you don't like about Singapore, or you would say you would change here?
I think Singapore's too small, right?
But you can change it.
There's nothing much you could do in the sense
Yeah.
that basically at the weekend, what do? Eat, and eat. And probably, right? And so I think I wish Singapore could be way bigger. I wish we could have more places to explore. And I think the next thing I hope that is we could have 4 seasons,
Yeah.
all year round, 35 degrees, 33 degrees, 30 degrees. I mean, that's Singaporean. And then when we get a 26 degree, everyone's like, oh, Singapore has changed, right? That's a very interesting perspective. But I love to enjoy a little bit different in terms of the weather that we have, the environments, and probably these are things you can get in Japan, these are places that you can get in Europe. And even the cuisine type that you could eat in different seasons differ. And that to me is amazing, right? You get to eat hot soup on winter, and those environments are so crazily amazing. And so this is the second thing I hope Singapore could have. I really can't think much of it, but I really hope Singapore could be more accepting from a very global perspective to rethink how Singapore could actually allow everyone come into Singapore and make it very competitive. I know sometimes competitions really affect our side. It is what made us better in a huge perspective. So I know of a lot of Singaporeans who complain, oh, this foreigners is coming to take our job, etc., etc. I mean, it's a balance. To me, are we so comfortable in our environment that we're not willing to upgrade our skills, upgrade our capability, upgrade our global perspective to be a good challenge to anyone that can come into our company or come into our countries to fight? So I welcome challengers to come in and say in Singapore and say that, hey, how could all these foreigners come in and bring more technology, more interesting perspective into our country, make us more competitive, and as a whole, the base of Singaporeans will improve in the way we think, in the way we manage our skill sets, in the way that we create and think differently. I think one of the biggest things is TikTok CEO, right? Sure. He's amazing on a global front, right? No one will ever imagine that one day Singaporeans will have so many different people. But the hard truth is this, many companies across the world on a global basis have Singaporeans at the C-suite level, at senior management level. It's just that these people don't announce that they're there. We have famous chef in Michelin as a head chef of a 3-star Michelin restaurant. And we have so many amazing people out there in the society. These people are just not known to you. Yeah. So how can we find a way to value and bring Singapore to the next level by being more competitive? I think that's something I hope Singapore could change in that.
Or maybe like you can give an advice like how to settle well in Singapore, or like what you need to do like to prepare before you move.
I think one of the first few things is settle down your kids. I think a lot of people really have to understand that there's varying education system here. But I think one of the most powerful education system, or rather one of the most powerful, is to put your kids in the local school here. I'm not too sure about how foreigners, whether can they put local kids, but I think our education system is really powerful. It really helps a lot of people to both learn, be bilingual, which is what Singaporeans is really, or what Singapore is really good at. Do not buy a car. When you come to Singapore, trust me, don't buy a car. It's really crazily expensive. I just hear from my friend, a 3 Series for BMW is at 280,000+. Yeah. That's crazy, right? And I'm like, gosh. So I think if you're willing to take public transport, you're willing to take like taxis, I think you will do pretty much well. Do not be afraid to choose off-skirt locations. I think Singapore is so small that you can travel from one part of the place to another part of the place in less than 1.5 hours, or probably less than an hour. So if you choose somewhere maybe in Choa Chu Kang, you still somewhere in Tampines, or you choose somewhere in like the North region, you still can travel anywhere in the world. And you would save so much money on rent. So sometimes be daring enough to stay somewhere on the North region, maybe somewhere in the East or the West region, because these are places where you get to stay in the heartlands. You get to meet people in the heartlands where this is how they stay on a regular basis. If you stay somewhere in the centralized area, most of these places, you probably have foreigners staying in it. Do you get the full experience of being among Singaporeans? You don't. That's, to me, is interesting. So choose the location that you stay, probably stay in the West or the East, and choose to take public transport. I think these are the two biggest things I'll say to take home. And don't try to eat. I mean, eating restaurant food is amazing, but try our local food. Right? It's amazing, it's cheap. It's probably something that you probably could eat every day for less than $500. You could order the whole entire table full of food, and you still probably pay less than $30 for probably what you could get a pasta in a restaurant. Yeah, it's just different.
What's your favorite food, favorite meal?
I love nasi lemak. I think there's so much spice in it, and it's very simple as a food. And when you mix the chili in, it creates different dimensions for food. I mean flavors, and I'm like, oh wow, nasi lemak is amazing. So I think that's the first choice that I had. I can't really think much of other food. I love mee siam, I love chicken rice, I love all kinds of food like satays and everything. So I think the best place is go to Chinatown, go to Chinatown Food Complex, go all the way to the top, second floor, you get a whole area of it. My favorite is just sitting down, and I get like all kinds of different food. To all the foreigners out there, especially those that come from the Western countries, please, when you come to our country, be daring enough to try maybe animal organs. Be willing to try a fish head. You probably go to Europe, you probably haven't even seen a fish head in your life. And trust me, that the meat that comes out of fish head sometimes can be so amazing. The pork organs that comes from, like example, pork that comes from beef, the organs like pork intestines and stuff, they're amazing. So come here and try these dishes, it will just wow you. And chicken feet, right? You guys call it exotic food in your country, but it's a normal staple food from day to day for us. Just give it a try here. Trust me, it's crazily amazing.
What would be your advice for a foreigner who came to Singapore? Like how to make friends in Singapore?
You'd be surprised how amazing Singaporeans are really friendly at many different places. I think if you go to most bars, you go to most places of drinking, if you just strike a simple conversation and say, hi, how are you? Crazily confident. They will definitely say, I'm good. And then they will ask, which country are you from? And that's how conversation starts. So I think many of us, we are not willing to take the first step to ask, hey, you know. So sometimes don't do things that are too intimidating. right? Just say hi, I'm new here, or hi. Just have a casual conversation that says that basically, oh, I'm new into these countries. Do you mind if I ask you some questions to learn more about the country? I'm 100% sure 90% of Singaporeans, or even more than that, they'd be more than happy to share with you and be proud of the cultures that we're in. So for me, if someone say hi to me in a bar, I'll be more than happy to have a light chit chat with them.
How's your social circle look like in terms of like nationalities? Are you like friends with mainly the majority local Singaporeans, or you have friends, foreigners living in Singapore?
I would say it's about 50-50. I have friends from different countries. I have friends from, like, example, Russia. I have friends from, like, Japan. I have friends from, like, Vietnam and different countries. I prefer to keep this group of friends a good mix. For one reason, I feel that it's time for people like me as a Singaporeans to globalize the perspective. I think being trapped in the country or being stuck in the countries where it's so small, our thinking capability is very limited to, oh, this is the comfort zone that I am. But as you travel to more countries, you see the culture, you see the way that people consume, be it food or resources, and think. And you realize, hey, the world is actually so big, Singapore is so small, right? I mean, if you go to China, it's billions in population, right? You're just one small dot, and the companies is in the millions. And Singapore is that small as compared to the bigger perspective. So I rather keep myself with a lot of different friends from different countries, and I love to understand the culture perspective from there. So wherever I travel to different countries, I hope to meet one friend in that country and hope they can bring me around, share their culture. I would even sometimes ask, is it possible if you could just let me go to your house and grab a meal together with your family? I mean, if they're allowed, that's amazing, because I get to see, wow, so that's how you consume, that's how you eat, and that's how, a family like actually, consume or eat food at home, and I think that's amazing. You will never be able to see that part of the life if you're just a tourist. With tourists, you just go to tourist spots, you go to a different place, but when you're in a country and you go to someone else's house and you go, oh, so this is how a house in Vietnam look like, this is how a house in Thailand look like. And that to me is amazing.
What's your principles when you like socialize and you're doing like networking? What's your like main principles?
I'm a Christian and I'm brought up with the very perspective of giving more so than taking. So whenever I'm in the networking sessions, the first thing that always comes to my mind is how much can I give to this person? How much can I help this person? And it's always with the perspective, whether it be with my clients or anyone, it's always a giving first. Because it's my basic principle that I think among humans, the more you give to this person, they will somehow at a certain point in time feel in debt back to you to want to help back. And so whenever I approach any networking sessions, the first thing that I always ask myself is, how can I help this person? If there's a way for us to strike a connection, if there's a way for me to value add this person for free, I'll be more than happy to go there and say that, hey, I'm willing to spend 30 minutes with you, I'm willing to spend about 15 minutes with you and say, how can I value add and give it back to you? And I'm sure along the way, someday, I will need help from this person. And then and there, if he refuses me, it's fine, right? At least I helped someone. But if he helped me in that journey, then it's just another step forward. To me, networking is just about empowering people, and there's always a win-win situation. If I'm able to empower someone today, I hope one day that person is able to empower me somewhere along the journey in my life. It could be today, it could be next week, it could be even 3 months to 3 years from now. I'd be glad to say that with all the friendships that I've been building up, I've seen a lot of people who in my journey of my life have helped me in many different parts of the journey of my life. I have friends that I helped about 6 months ago. When I need the favor back about 3 years later, they are like more than happy to come in and help. They say, Ben, you have helped me this much. This is what I could do for you. And I think this is the kind of culture that I think I want to build even in networking.
I think people have this wrong idea about networking, that networking is like to go to some conference and just give away business cards and like chat with people and pitch their product.
I think sometimes it's also the choice of who you choose to mix around with, who you to be around with. So I'm a little bit fussy about who I want to work around with. I'm sure you can be friends with anyone, but I'm sure you want to actually be connected to people that make sense in your life. Probably people who would probably value add you more in the industry, probably people who could help you to take the next step forward. And so to me, I'm very cautious about the people that I network with. I'm very cautious about the people that I mingle with. I think it's just the group of friends that you want to surround yourself with. It's not about how rich, how powerful, how successful these people is, but whether can this group of people that's around you propel you forward to be more hardworking, propel you forward to dream bigger, propel you forward to actually succeed in life to another level. Is that group of people that keep you down to earth, that even in the worst of your moments, even when business is going crazy, they keep you humble. And that to me, I thought is a very interesting perspective.
Some people say there is a lack of entrepreneurial vibe for Singaporeans. Do you agree or disagree?
I'm starting to think that there's more entrepreneurship as the market starts to stifle a little bit. But I do believe that our education systems creates a lot of elements of how we think. Singapore probably has one of the best education systems around, but it focuses a lot on routines. It focuses a lot on regimens and just keeps spinning. Like probably, you have to do a lot of math problem repeatedly again and again. And then when you take a look at that, we are taught to a certain level that our education system is a one-size-fits-all. Right, you take a look at the start, JC is being treasured, right? That's junior college here in Singapore. And then subsequently, there's more opportunity in polys and stuff. And most of us, we really do not know what we want in life. And we don't believe that with the safety net that we have and the high salary that we are generally paid, there is no clear need for us to go into entrepreneurship. I think the average salary in Singapore is about $3,000, $4,000 and above for fresh grad. And in that sense, most of them will be like, oh, I'd rather be in that safety net where I can be there. So I do agree with you to a huge extent that Singaporeans are not moving that level because of the safety net that we potentially could have here. I really think it's changing. I think a lot of us are more willing to take a step forward, and I think the government's offering a lot more grants and stuff to really help entrepreneurs to move forward in the world.
Many people are dreaming about like starting something like on their own, but they're scared to take this step.
I think in the first year alone, probably about 15 hours a day.
Oh.
And then in the second year and third year, I probably worked slightly lesser, somewhere about 14, 13 hours. Then I think in the fourth year onwards, I started school. And that was where I have to manage school and work at the same time. So averagely, I sleep maybe about 5 hours a day. Then and there in my early stage. So I think you won't even have weekends. It's probably Monday to Sunday, and you're just trying to cover back your backlogs. And as your business expands, so would you have to do everything. So I think in business, it's probably, I would not advise for everyone to be in it. Let's just face it. If you're just an entrepreneur just started, HR is you, accounting is you, business development is you, operations is you. Basically, everything is about you. That to me is a life where you have to first ask yourself, do you understand enough about the frameworks, the processes, and along the way, are you willing to learn? So to me, I think I was very curious about many things, and I just keep asking HR professionals, I just keep asking different people, and I am glad that I have a lot of mentors in my life, huge lots of mentors. And the reason why I named myself as Prodigy, my company name, is because the word comes from protege, right? Protege, it means a disciple of. And to me, I'm a disciple of many people that's out there in the industry, huge people that are really successful in the industry. And these people were willing to teach me, really willing to spend time to guide me along the process of HR, marketing and stuff. And as I learn this, I hope that I'm able to use this to help more restaurants and more companies out there in the society.
You remember your lowest point in life?
It happens about quite a number of years ago where I think there were multiple deaths within my family, bigger group. I was so hurt that even during the funerals, I couldn't cry. And then and there, you ask yourself, what do you want in life? And then you start to look at your parents, how frail they are. And then when you start to see that your parents have always been dyeing their hair to make themselves look youthful, when actually the hard fact is their whole hair is white. And for the first time, when you see your dad or you see your mom, the whole entire hair is white, and you go, man, how much they have aged. And you go, now is the point of time that I want to work crazily hard. Now is the point in time I want to earn so much money that I can let my parents live in a very comfortable life, to choose and buy anything that they want from a very different perspective. And that's what drives me forward every day. I want to be at a point where I can just go to my parents and say, which country do you want to fly to? I'll fly you next. Is there a house in Singapore that can I buy for you so that you can enjoy life? And that is something that keeps me awake every day. That's what drives me every day on the work. I think it was 5-10 years ago, my parents actually freeze up. And for a moment, when I look at my mom then and there, I was like, is she having stroke? Did something happen? Because she couldn't move her hands. Everything just couldn't move. And I'm like, shit, this is how fragile life is. And I'm like, I need to do something and I have to work crazily hard. And so this moment, I'm proud to say, right, I just brought my parents back from an overseas trip. They choose the country they want to be, right? My dad chose Taiwan, my mom chose Japan and says, let's go to both countries and let's just enjoy. And that's something that I'm proud of that I could deliver. But that's something that I think I work really hard for. And I think I want to remind everyone out there in the society, there'll always be a low point in your life. But people that you surround yourself with, people that you care about, I think that's the most important part. And there's no one in the world that cares more about you than your own family members.